Welcome back, everybody. This is Todd Sylvester with the Todd Sylvester Inspires Belief Cast. Once again, I have an amazing guest on today. His name's Sean McDonald.
What's up, Todd?
How you doing, brother?
Good, man.
Good. Thanks for being here. It's early here at Wasatch Recovery Treatment Center. It's a 5-star resort, and it's a 5-star treatment center, man. That's when I first met Sean, actually, is he was a client who came through here, and I got to know him really well, and he's a guy that I've grown to love and admire, and you guys are going to love his story. I want to thank our sponsor, Veracity Networks, for their support, and I want to thank all of you for continuing listening to me and sharing it with other people. It's amazing. I think we're over 50,000 downloads now, and it's just
crazy.
It's great, man, and I just couldn't do it without all the support, so thank you for doing that. So a little background on Sean. You know, I hear this a lot of people who have overcome addiction where they live their lives with gratitude, and because I think they're just you're just grateful to be breathing and alive, especially when you hear your story.
Yeah.
You know, around age 17, he started experimenting with prescription pills. He had already been kind of drinking and doing drugs up until that point, but that's when things got bad and eventually led to heroin. This led him to the point where he was homeless. He overdosed multiple times. Again, that's, it's amazing that you're even alive. There were several attempts for you to get clean. And the beautiful thing is you just never gave up. You kept trying and trying and trying. You took a lot of crap from me and a few other people. But you did it. And now you manage a sober living home, which is really cool. We'll get into that. You're attending Utah Valley University, and we're here to learn how you did all that and what you've been through. So
Yeah.
Okay, well, give us a little background. Where did you grow up and a little bit about your family?
Yeah, man. I just grew up in Sandy, right down the street. Lived there actually up until I became homeless, but only child. My mom and dad, really good childhood. Really had lots of friends growing up. Nothing, no like trauma or anything in that respect. But
sure.
As I got up a little bit older, later elementary school, junior high, I did start to notice my dad was drinking a lot.
Okay.
I did grow up LDS. My dad is not LDS, so there's a little bit of kind of dysfunction there, I guess, on, what I'm supposed to be, I guess.
So mom's saying go to church, and you're seeing dad doing maybe the opposite of the things that you would learn.
Yeah.
Like, maybe we shouldn't be doing that.
I mean, I don't want to say he was like total opposite. I mean, my dad was like a scout leader for a little bit, and he was like very supportive in me going to church and stuff, but there was inconsistencies in the way like he was living and the way I was kind of being taught on Sundays and stuff, Yeah.
But, hey, how was it being the only child? Was that hard for you? Was that difficult, or is it obviously it's all you knew, but
yeah,
how was that?
It's like you said, it's all I knew. I did get very close to my friends, excuse me, because of that. And my cousins, my family, my extended family. Definitely all the attention from my parents though, which led to its own problems as I got older. But
right.
But yeah, I mean, it was a good childhood, man. Other than the things I've mentioned,
Yeah. What did you do growing up? Did you play any sports or things like that?
Played, I think I did like junior jazz, for a little bit. I was horrible at it though. I wasn't a basketball star like you.
Oh, I don't know.
I played soccer. That was probably the one I gravitated towards most. And then about age 12, got into guitar. Picked up a guitar and just never put it down since then. Just started playing. And
still playing today, huh?
Yeah.
Nice.
And then played trumpet and French horn through junior high and high school. Didn't really stick with those though, but I stuck with guitar through that. But
well, so let's talk about, obviously you started, maybe experimenting with drinking and smoking pot and things like that. When did that all start?
So I think I stole one of my dad's first beers when I was like 14, I think. I didn't know what I was doing.
Were you by yourself at that time or with friends? Or
I think the first time I did it, it was by myself. And then the second time I was like, I grabbed a buddy and I was like, yeah, let's do it,
Right.
like mixing vodka with beer. It wasn't good. It was, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was bad.
That's nasty.
And then around that time, I started noticing, like, just hanging out with friends that they had drank before too, and that led to us hanging out at other parents' houses and somehow getting beer. I can't remember how, but and drinking, and that kind of just opened up my mind to feeling different. You know, it's just like, if this makes me feel like this, I wonder what other things make me feel like.
Yeah. It kind of, when you're that age or whatever, it's almost like the rush is knowing that I'm doing something maybe I shouldn't be doing.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
Yeah. Because, I definitely still had that, like, that religious upbringing in me,
right.
So, like, this was naughty, so to speak, and that in itself was exciting, for sure.
Yeah, I remember when I snuck a drink of some hard liquor from my dad's wet bar in the basement, and he wasn't around, but I knew it was wrong.
Yeah.
But just the rush of it, for some reason, was like, whoa.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't get drunk or anything like that, but it was just like, just knowing I was maybe doing something that was kind of edgy, but then your friends kind of cheer you on, and then you kind of like, wow, I'm accepted, and this is kind of cool.
Yeah. And I think that kind of leads into part of what I think a lot of people don't realize about addiction too, is because it's all illegal. All the substances are illegal, and you're living this, like, kind of this underworld life. That in itself is exciting too, that you're doing something illegal,
right?
Kind of just, so there's definitely a rush aspect to that as well.
So you started doing that, and just kind of take it from there, and just talk about how things got out of hand eventually for you.
Yeah. So I think when I was 16, right after junior high, I smoked marijuana for the first time. And just kind of progressed from there, man. Mushrooms, ecstasy by high school, just wasn't anything like everyday type thing, but it was regular, right. It was like on the weekends, like, what can we figure out to do to get messed up? And
did your family or your mom or dad know that this was going on at this point with you, or did you hide it? Did you have to try to avoid keeping that from your parents?
No, at this point, no. I was still doing relatively well in school. I was playing in bands and talent shows, and after school, like, I was keeping it together. So, like, at least I thought I was,
Right.
It was fun. Like, it was a lot of fun at that age.
But did your parents know, though, that you were doing it?
No, not until I had, a couple of years later, gotten into prescription pills. But that was probably, I don't think they even had a clue until after high school.
Okay. So you were about 17. I think you were saying earlier, what we read on your bio is when you got caught up, trying prescription pills for the first time. Talk about that.
Yeah. So, like I said, I was in that mind state of just wanting to experiment with different substances, and I had friends that were doing Percocets, Loratabs, and one of my friends gave some to me. I think I was at school too, and I just remember that first feeling I got from him, that sense of well-being, that just comfort, bliss. It, like, right off the bat, that first feeling, it was like nothing I had ever felt before, and looking back now, I was definitely hooked right from that first.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that before, where you felt like just the first time doing that man, this is what I've been missing, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I want this more than anything.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a scary thing. I think, you look at the opioid, epidemic that's going on in this world.
Yeah. It's horrible.
And it's scary, right? And, a lot of people, they get caught up in it from an injury. They weren't looking to get, high or whatever, kind of like what you were kind of looking for at that time. But, that's scary just because how it made you feel. You're like, man, I want this again.
Yeah. Yeah. And how easy and everywhere it was too at my high school. Like, it was everywhere.
Really?
Like, people on the football team were doing it. Like all my friends not all of them, but most of them were doing that at the time. And yeah, like you said, it really is an epidemic, man. It's lost a lot of friends to this.
Yeah. So continue. You know, what led from there?
Yeah. So, at one point we had crushed up the pills and started snorting them. And then Oxycontin came into the mix by a friend and crushed that up and snorted it. And it was just, a quicker, more intense feeling of that one I had already fell in love with,
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. And by senior year, I actually even remember being in class one day. A teacher was playing a video in class, and I was in the back of the room crushing up pills on the desk and snorting it right there in class.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you got to that point where you're like kind of just really brazen with it. Didn't care.
Yeah. It was every day, or at least I was trying to do it every day, at most every couple days.
Was your schoolwork at this point being affected? Because you said you were getting fairly good grades, but at this point, now you're a senior, it sounds like?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, over, like, from junior high until my senior year, they slowly declined. I mean, I was never in jeopardy of, like, not graduating high school or anything like that, but I used to be, like, an honor roll student, and I was probably, I don't know, below a 3.0. It was definitely
so things
declining,
were struggling.
yeah.
Now, at this point, had your parents noticed something was going on with you?
I think they were concerned, but they didn't know.
They probably didn't assume that, well, he's snorting Oxys.
Yeah, they might have thought, hey, he might be, like, trying alcohol or just, being a teenager doing.
Or he might just be a little sad or depressed or whatever.
Hormones.
Hormones.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we kind of laugh, but I think a lot of parents get caught up where the last thing you want to do is assume maybe your kids are doing drugs.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Especially on the level you were doing it at that point.
Oh, yeah.
But, I think as parents, maybe they need to be more, I guess, open-ended with some of these hard questions kind of thing, But I don't know. I just think that's an interesting thing. I mean, I know we're kind of veering from your story just for a second, but I think as parents, could your parents have done anything at that point to stop what you were doing, even if they did find out, come down on you? Do you think that would have done anything at that moment, or?
I don't think so, to be honest with you. Yeah, and it was a few years later. I think I was like 19. I was probably smoking Oxycontin at the time, and I know I'd gotten into some financial trouble, and this just made me think of this. So I told my parents, I was like, I'm addicted to Oxycontin. I need help. I need to do something. And I think I was mostly trying to get money.
Right.
But I did tell them. I broke down, told them. And I just remember my dad in shock saying, like, you're lying. Like, it didn't even register with him that I could be telling the truth. Like,
yeah.
He was like, you're making this up for some reason. And my mom was devastated. She's the sweetest, nicest lady ever.
Right.
And if they would have caught me before that, I don't think there would have been anything they could have done. It was just, because I hadn't gotten out of control with the other substances,
right.
Like, this wasn't anything different. So there was that battle of, like, okay, I'm doing this a lot. It's causing problems, but I just need to manage it differently.
Yeah, I need to slow down, maybe
slow down,
bit.
yeah. Take a break, something like that.
Yeah. Well, plus all your friends are doing it with you at this point, and this is where you find your acceptance and your validation.
Yeah.
And, it's kind of hard for that to kind of go away by a conversation sometimes, but I think a lot of times parents just don't know what to say or do in those moments. I feel like your dad's even like, well, no, this isn't true. There's no way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I was in college at the time, had a job, and so it was that, like, see, I'm doing well, I'm successful. It was, I don't know, lots of lying to myself over the next few years.
So obviously things increase, and talk about what happens as that goes on.
Yeah, so I had mentioned, so we had started smoking the Oxycontin on tinfoil, and at some point over the next couple of years, they had changed the formulation of Oxycontin so it wasn't abusable in the same way. And so I remember it was around that time I felt my first withdrawals, and it just hits you like a ton of bricks. Like, this is miserable. Like, the worst pain, physical pain over your body, but on top of that, you're depressed, and like, it's horrible. And the only thing to make that go away is to use more, but you couldn't find the Oxycontin anymore.
Right.
And so I had friends again that had started to smoke heroin, and it's smoked the exact same way. It's literally like the same substance. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
And I mean, I grew up with a good, upbringing. I never thought I would try heroin. But I was in enough pain that I was like, I just want this to go away, and I'll figure something out, like tomorrow, if I can just feel normal for a little bit, and tomorrow I'll come up with a plan to get off this stuff. And so I tried heroin, and it just escalated even more from there. I don't think I ever did Oxycontin again after that. It was a fraction of the price. I think it's like $10 compared to $80. It's for the same amount, and it just got really...
I think that was a common thing, right? People going from Oxys straight to heroin because one, they changed the formula, but then also the cost was so much cheaper.
Oh yeah, and that's... I haven't met a lot of people that just said they just started doing heroin one day.
Right.
It's usually progressed.
Yeah.
From something else, and that's definitely my story as well.
Well, I think you also mentioned to me before, in our conversations in the past, that in your head you're like, I'll never do heroin. I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I'm not the person that does that stuff.
Yeah, I don't do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But how that just gradually got to the point where, well, okay, now I'll do that.
Yeah. And it was out of desperation too. I didn't want to feel that way. And like, as I've been saying, it's like I was snorting the pills, but I would never smoke them. I would smoke the pills. I would never smoke heroin. And this progression eventually led to IV use and shooting up. And I was only going to try it once again,
Right.
My friends were doing it, and I had a friend. I told a friend I wanted to do it, and he shot me up for the first time. And that's when things got really bad, man. Like, they were already really bad, and I was just making it worse and worse, digging myself into a hole. And that's what led to my overdoses.
Yeah, let's talk about that. When did you mentioned, that to me before, but let our listeners know what happened with your overdose and what was going on there.
So at this point, like I said, excuse me. I had told my parents that I'd been struggling. At this point, they've accepted I have a problem. I think they even know that it's heroin at this point. They don't know I don't think they know I'm injecting, but they do know I'm using heroin. And I've been to an outpatient treatment once. I think I'd get like a month or two clean and then go use again. So I had been clean for like a couple months and decided to use, and got heroin, came home to my parents' house, and shot up in my basement in my room, and I usually would always keep my door locked. The last thing I remember is something telling me to unlock the door. And the next thing I remember is there's 7 paramedics around me. They had injected me with Narcan. There's oxygen on my face, and my dad had found me dead on the floor.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he said he found me blue, not breathing, with my phone out too. I don't know if I knew I was overdosing or what, but
like you were trying to call someone or
something. I don't know. I don't know. And that was really tough, man. Not even that I had just died, just seeing more so even the look on my dad's face, and then my mom when she came home. And I was, I blamed myself for putting them through that.
Right.
And I went to the hospital, and the first thing I did when I got out was use more, so I didn't have to feel that disappointment, that shame.
Yeah, which is ironic because here you are feeling bad, you put them through it.
Yeah.
But then you don't want to, I guess, sit in that and accept that or feel that, and then so you end up using again. And I think that's really what addiction is that, Wendy, one of our therapists here, talks about this all the time. She says, addiction is the perpetual avoidance of legitimate suffering.
Yeah.
Because that would have been legitimate suffering. Yes, you did something that's causing your parents to feel sad and scared and hurting.
Yeah.
And addiction wants, that addiction part of you is like, no, I want to avoid all that. I don't want to even face that. So I'm going to go escape again. Versus, if we're healthy, we sit in that and we go through it, and it's hard still, don't get me wrong, but we sit through it and we can do it. But, that's what addiction is. And so you go right back to what you're comfortable with, I guess, right?
For sure. And I totally agree with that. It's pushing down these things that you should be feeling in life, so to speak, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the hardest things people, I think, struggle with, myself included, when they get clean, is feeling these years of things they should have dealt with in some way.
Yeah.
Just kind of all at the same time, and I've told that to people at the sober living and stuff too. They're just like, man, I'm depressed. It's like, good. I mean, you should be depressed, like this is years of stuff that's coming back, and it's, well,
that's what's really cool about what you're doing now, and we'll get to that in a minute, but you're now get to help people. You've been through it.
Yeah.
And they know that. And so they're going to sit and listen to someone who's been through it. But we'll get to that in a minute because there's more of this story.
Yeah.
This continues. Sure. So let's just kind of take it from there, and then I'll let you kind of talk about how things progressed.
Yeah. So it wasn't long after this that I did come to Wasatch, but also I did overdose one more time, and this one almost scared me more. And there was many times close to overdose, but this one, I was alone in my car and shot up and came to with just like this huge deep breath. Looked at the clock, about half an hour had gone by that I was completely out.
Wow.
And I can't describe the feeling other than I felt like I was close to death. Like, I did not feel right. I could feel the blood rushing back into my body. There was a pain in my head and my chest that was like very profound. And I was completely alone, just probably slumped over in my car,
right.
And then shortly after that, I shot up and decided to drive before.
So, okay, go back. So here you are, you pretty much died.
Yeah.
And you felt this feeling that I'm dying.
Yeah.
So, but then you go right back to, once you kind of come to a little bit, you shoot back up and then drive.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Were you scared at this point? I mean, were you like going, wow, I'm going to die? Like, did you ever have that thought of, this could be it and I'm dying? And was that a scary thought for you at that time? Do you remember?
Not at this point, no.
Okay.
There's a lot of ego, like, that I can manage this still, even though I knew like this, like, it was like, I can, there's a kind of like, a feeling like I can't die, maybe even.
Mm-hmm.
It was, it's a crazy time to even think about, man. But I did, like I said, I shot up and I drove, and I was on my way to work, so I was running late, as an addict usually does.
Right.
And I didn't even wait to feel the effects from the shot. I just started driving, and I was driving on the freeway, and I crashed into a freeway sign and totaled my car. and somehow didn't kill myself or somebody else in the process. It's
a miracle that, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy to even think about now. At this point, you know, my parents, myself too, like I was like, okay, I gotta make a change. Somehow got here at Wasatch Recovery. I'd never done residential treatment before. And even though I didn't stay sober after coming to Wasatch, you know, it just being around people here in this place and good people, man, I really this was like the first time that recovery was kind of like instilled in me. Like I was like, wow, there's a better life.
Yeah.
Away from this stuff.
I can get past this.
Inside of me somewhere, you know?
Yeah. You know, that's, like I said earlier, this is when you and I first met, and I got to help counsel you through your stay here. And, you know, one of the things I remember most about you is that you are very, I guess, sensitive. And I say that in the way of, like, you kind of wear your heart on your sleeve. Like, you feel really deeply, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, if something's going really good, you feel the goodness of it.
Yeah.
If it's going bad or something goes wrong, man, you go to the depths of how bad it could be, and you make it worse, kind of thing. But you feel so much. Is that fair to say?
I'd say so. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think a lot of addicts do. They feel deeply on all levels, and I think, again, what do? We want to avoid those type of, you know, intense feelings. You know. And but I noticed that about you as I worked with you back then, is how you just were, and you were really down though too. And I remember, and which is, like we said, it's understandable.
Yeah.
But I could almost even see that you just almost felt like, you know, it seems like everyone else seems to be getting it, but why am I not?
Yeah. Well, the first time I did come here a few times.
Right.
the first, which you didn't even work here the first time I came here.
Yeah, it was like, I think the second or third.
Because the second time you were here, and the first time I was doing, like, I really did feel joy. Like, it was like this is great. I haven't felt like this in years. Like, I'm gonna stay sober. It was like, it was good. And I stayed clean for about 7 months, and started drinking, smoking pot, and just one day decided to use again. And that's when the down on myself really started, you know, because it was like I was convinced I was never going to use again.
Okay, so that makes a lot of sense. And I think that happens to a lot of people who relapse. They're thinking, man, I was like determined.
Like, what the hell happened?
What am I doing?
Yeah. It's like, and it can happen that quickly. At least it did then, you know. And I think a lot of it was still just being young in like your early 20s. Like, you're still just figuring out who you are and stuff. But it's so I came back to residential, stayed for like a month, and then immediately relapsed, like right again out of it, you know, which I was just in this state of like, I'm out of control. I don't know what to do. I don't want to use anymore, but I can't stop. And I had stopped. That was the most frustrating thing. So that's when depression and that kind of self-hatred really started. I mean, it started before that, but it was
intensified
for sure.
Yeah.
And over the next few years, I think it was a few other attempts at going back to treatment and stuff, trying to keep one foot in like my life I'd created in recovery, you know, like still trying to reach out to people and convince people I was doing well. I think I even remember meeting with you one time and then going out to my car and smoking heroin like right after.
Yeah.
It was
we met off and on several times over the year or so, and I mean, I could tell how bad you wanted it, but I could also tell that you were white knuckling it.
Yeah.
You know, just kind of like holding on, like, because logically you wanted to be done.
Yeah.
But emotionally and
I couldn't.
That desire was still there to use. That's what we call white knuckling. It's like you got those two polar opposites, and you're just holding on. So, but
Yeah.
that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. Yeah. And at age 25, my mom had had enough. She had been threatening to kick me out for years, but I mean, I'm her baby, I'm her only child.
Right.
And in my head too, I was like, she'll never kick me out.
Right.
She had actually gotten remarried to actually one of your former neighbors, Wayne.
Wayne, yes, we love Wayne.
Yeah.
Shout out to Wayne.
Yeah, I love Wayne. No,
Yeah.
didn't like him then.
Yeah, and he was tough on you. Let's just be real here.
As much as part of me still hates to admit it, I don't know if my mom would have been strong enough to kick me out if it wasn't for him.
Yeah.
And
let's talk about that just for a second, because that's tough for any parent to do, kick their son out of the house.
Yeah.
Like you have no place to go. You're going to be homeless.
Yeah.
And that's going through the mind of your mom, obviously. But, knowing Wayne, and I know some background, he's a no BS kind of guy.
Yeah.
Like he just shoots it straight. And I think he was shooting it to you straight. And
Yeah.
here's this guy like, who are you,
Yeah.
You can't tell me what to do. Or,
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, just butting heads too. Like, also there's a little bit of like, you're not good enough for my mom type thing, but no one would have been good enough for my mom, I think the world of her.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, just the fact that he was coming in and just kind of, like you said, no BS, just telling me what to do. I did not like it.
Right.
No.
So, but they got to the point together, they just said, hey, you're done. Get out.
Yeah.
And we're not going to, basically what they're saying is we're not going to put up with this anymore.
Yeah.
Which honestly is the greatest love.
Yeah.
You could ever have received.
Absolutely.
Think about it, right?
No.
At the moment you're like, this sucks.
Tough love is the hardest to give, but it's what's needed, I think.
Yeah.
A ton in recovery, and it's not for parents that are still, kind of, it's enabling,
Yeah.
like and my mom wasn't trying to enable me,
right,
but she definitely was, it was.
Well, your mom's intentions, or any parent's intentions, are good. They want what's best for you.
Exactly.
So, but they're thinking kicking you out, that's the worst thing we could do.
Yeah. No.
When in reality, it's the best, especially with the position you were in, because you had been, they've tried everything at this point.
Yeah.
And so have you, they're just like, we're done,
Yeah.
So talk about that. You get kicked out. You're done. They're done with you, basically saying we're not going to enable you anymore.
Yeah. So, I was holding down some jobs at the time somehow, just landscaping daily jobs, and did find a roof over my head with a friend from high school. I say that lightly because it was a using friend type thing.
Yeah.
And
let's do poison together.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Well, he wasn't using heroin, but he was using all other sorts of stuff,
Yeah.
And this was probably my lowest point before I even didn't have a roof over my head. Not having my family, kind of, they still were like saying, we support you. If there's anything we can do to help you, let us know. But it was not feeling like I didn't have my family, having gone to treatment, I think 6 or 7 times at this point. And I just given up. And I just remember being broken in my room at the time and just praying to God that if this is all there is for me, to just kill me. Because I don't have the strength to take my own life. Because I didn't want my mom, grandma, my dad to know that I had taken my own life. So if this was all there was, to just end it.
Wow.
And I'll never forget that feeling. It was but I continued to try to manage those jobs and live there. Got kicked out of that place too for not being able to pay rent, and just started kind of couch surfing on whose ever couch I could stay at. So I don't want to say I was like homeless, like at the homeless shelter, I was for the time being, I was good at trying to find a place to stay each night, but there were nights I wouldn't know where I was gonna lay my head at night, you know, just writing tracks or walking around, just calling people like, can I stay at your place? Having friends I've known my whole life say, man, you can't stay here, you know. And so I think I even called you at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like,
remember that.
And rightfully so, they're like, you can't come back to Wasatch, you know. I've been here 3 times, you know. And you even told me to go down to the Other Side Academy, and it was to that point I was just like, you know, if I'm gonna try this, I'm gonna see if I can get into treatment. I didn't have insurance at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I was 26, but I was gonna try to get into treatment somewhere, anywhere, and really try it. And if I failed, I remembered making this with myself. I was just gonna kill myself if it didn't work, because it gets harder each time.
Oh yeah.
It's so somehow, even my parents weren't gonna pay for treatment, which they, like I said, they had paid multiple times.
Yeah.
I thanks to a family member and actually Julie Berg, who was a therapist that used to work here, and Julie Jackson down in Orem, I was able to get into a sober living and a day treatment facility. And I, at this point, like, I was broken, Todd. I was just kind of like a shell of like a person. There wasn't anything left of Sean. I told myself I was going to try this, and no BS, no excuses, like this is it or this is it type thing, you know?
Yeah.
So I actually detoxed at the sober living. Didn't have a car, had a bag of like ripped clothes to my name, no money, no food, any of that stuff.
Right.
And walked about 40 minutes to treatment each day.
Wow.
Still kind of detoxing.
Mm-hmm. But you're doing it.
But I'm doing it. And I just remember some of the guys there, you know, just like giving me like clothes and stuff, just like this like overwhelming feeling of gratitude. Those were like the first feelings I remember actually feeling again, you know. It was just like these little things of like, yeah, eat some of my food, man. Like these little things that I had just taken for granted, like having my whole life. Really just feeling love and gratitude again really kind of set the tone for that recovery, but also for the first time acknowledging this self-hatred, and because the drugs were gone, you know. Just like I grew up here in Salt Lake, I'm down in Orem, I didn't know anybody, you know. It was like I'm completely alone and don't have anybody. And like I said, when I came to Wasatch, you know, this really did instill something in me. So I had all the tools to start
for sure
living a different way. So every morning while I'm walking to treatment, it's just funny to think about now, but I love myself. I love myself like while I'm walking to treatment every day, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Just I'm telling things I like about myself, little things.
I think that's incredible, dude.
Yeah. It's amazing the power the mind has, man. And it's and I don't want people to think like you tell yourself you love yourself, you know, a few days in a row. It's you just love yourself, you know. It's and to this day, you know, it it's months and months of rewiring your brain to
for sure.
think something different. Praying, meditating, going to the gym, starting to live a different way and feel differently about yourself. And
right.
I started waiting tables at excuse me, at Applebee's down there in Orem. So I'm working full time, going to day treatment 5 days a week, which is 6 hours a day, 5 days a week.
Right.
And then we're required to go to AA meetings too on top of that. So, you know,
so you're busy.
I'm busy, man, but I'm not griping. I'm not complaining, you know, I'm doing it because I made that commitment with myself. I'm going to do this.
Well, just even when you were saying that you would walk 40 minutes both ways kind of thing, I mean, that shows commitment as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it would have been easy to go, it's too far. You know what? It's too far.
Yeah, I couldn't find a ride.
I can't get a ride. I'm walking.
Yeah.
You know, I had a friend of mine who he had lost his driver's license because of a couple DUIs, and he had a job though to go to, but he had no one was going to take him, nothing. So he'd ride his 10 speed on the freeway. You know, it's a funny story. He ended up getting a ticket on the freeway riding his 10 speed. Anyway, but the point is that you were doing whatever it took at that point. It sounds like, you know, you started going, okay, like you said, this is it, but I'm going to put in whatever effort it needs to be. And even you just saying it, I got really touched when you said, you know, I love me. I love me. I love me. I love me. You know, it sounds almost kind of silly, but it's something you needed to do.
And it's a lie at first.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, you don't believe it at first.
Not at all. No.
You're like, no, I actually hate myself.
Yeah.
And,
I'm just going to keep saying it.
I'll keep saying the opposite. Yeah. But I think that's impressive, Sean, honestly. And I think our listeners, you know, those who might be struggling, it's these little things that make a big difference.
Yeah.
You know, but it wasn't a little thing. I mean, that's probably hard for you to do, to say those things, because you didn't feel it yet. You didn't believe it.
Yeah, it felt uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it doesn't feel good at first, you know? It's, and I think that just goes to show the power of the mind, the soul.
Mm-hmm.
Just, like, you can control your thoughts, the way you think about yourself, the way you feel about yourself.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I did day treatment for 5 months down there.
Mm-hmm.
And continued waiting tables. Eventually moved out of the sober living and moved into a transitional living where there's a little less structure.
Right.
The other thing too is, you know, while I was there, it's like I said, it's required to go to AA meetings and stuff. And I specifically remember one time when I met with you, and I was kind of like, I don't know if I want to do like AA, like rational recovery. Like I was kind of conflicted. I had friends that had done both. Sure. I had done both.
Right. And
you said, I'm paraphrasing, but something along the lines of, I don't care like what you do, like AA, whatever, but I never want you to refer to yourself as an addict again.
Mm-hmm.
And I never did the whole time. And
nice. I
would go to meetings and share, and I'd say I'm grateful to be clean and sober today, but I never once have referred to myself as an addict in these 2 years.
That's awesome.
And that is a huge part of my recovery, you know, and it doesn't have to be like one way or the other, you know. People can get
whatever.
There's knowledge in everything.
There truly is. There's truth everywhere.
And I've found a happy medium, I think, between those things. But
well, I'm glad you brought that up, because I want to explain to the listeners who may not understand why I say that, not only to you, to all my clients.
Yeah.
Because what follows I am follows you.
Yeah.
And the truth is, like, we're both sitting here right now, and I think you've just celebrated, is it 2 years?
Yeah.
2 years clean. 2 years, so congratulations,
Thanks, man.
Yeah. So proud of you, dude. But the truth is, we're clean right now.
Yeah.
And even when I meet with a client who hasn't drank or used in, say, even just 3 days or 2 days, the truth is you're clean.
Yeah.
So why should we tell ourselves that we're always label ourselves as an addict? Because what happens is that becomes our identity.
Mm-hmm.
And you're smart enough and you've been through enough to know that if you go back to all that stuff, you're right back in your addiction. You already know that.
Yeah.
But let's label the truth. What's the truth? And right now I'm grateful to be clean and sober.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to explain to our listeners who may not understand.
Yeah.
Again, what follows I am follows you. It becomes your identity.
For sure.
So anyway, thanks for sharing that. That's really cool.
Well, also it's just, someone broke it down to me as like, what do you feel when you say I am an addict? Like, what does an addict mean to you, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't feel good to say. Like, it's, at least to me, it's not, and I understand it's part of acceptance, like accepting you're an addict.
Yeah, you got to understand that,
that's part of my recovery in my life, is telling myself positive things about myself, you know?
I love it.
So
that's so you've just celebrated 2 years clean. You look amazing. You look great. You're running a sober living home.
Mm-hmm.
You're also going to school at Utah Valley University, right?
Yeah.
And so just talk about what's going on right now in your life and how you're doing.
Yeah. So, let's see. Yeah, so about a year ago, I switched from Applebee's to P.F. Chang's, a little bit nicer of a restaurant, waiting tables there.
Mm-hmm.
And then in January, Julie Jackson that I had mentioned earlier, she works at Steps down in Orem and Payson, kind of all over the place. She asked me to come back and manage the sober living, the same one I detoxed at and moved into. So yeah, I'm ahead of there's 2 houses on the facility. We're full right now. It's about 20 guys. And it's crazy to be in that position, man. I never thought I would be there.
Yeah, right. I mean, that really is quite the accomplishment to and reward for what you've been through. And then all of a sudden now the recovery community's coming to you and say, hey, we want you to help us out.
Yeah.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, it is, man. Yeah. It's a cool facility, man. I get to see people get out of prison, you know, and start to try to live a different way, a different life. And, and just people that, you know, like me, have been through it a few times and they're not giving up and they just keep trying and they're back at it. And
well, along those lines that you just said, what if someone's listening to this right now who is struggling with their addiction or anything for that matter, what advice would you give them? Because I mean, honestly, Sean, it's a miracle you're alive. Yeah. And I know your whole, you know, we unfortunately haven't been able to tap into every aspect of what you've been through, but a lot of it. But what advice would you give someone who just feels like, man, I'm never going to be able to get this?
Kind of sounds cliche a little bit, but it's surrender. It is, like, it really, and I kind of call it like the switch that happens, for at least for me and for others. And I don't know, it's different for each person. You know, some people get like 1 DUI and never drink again. Other people go to prison multiple times and then they eventually get it. You know, it's like, but you have you ultimately have the choice to say, I'm done with this crap. Like I'm giving it up. I'm willing to do whatever it takes, and no one can take that choice away from you, but nobody can make you make that choice. You know,
that's a good point.
It's
very
completely
well said.
up to that person. Yeah, but
very well said.
Yeah,
yeah. Well, again, I go back to you got to that point where you're like, okay, I'm willing to make these tough choices now. I'll do what it takes to actually not only get clean, but stay clean and do the work. You know, you went to your AA meetings. You had family that was loving you, but at the same time holding boundaries with you. Yeah. You were working. You were contributing. You were putting money away. You were paying some bills.
Paying my own rent. Yeah.
Paying your own rent. I mean, and for someone, you know, a lot of people who've never gone through addiction are like, well, that's what we're supposed to be doing.
No.
But that for you was like this big monumental thing is the way I look at it, right?
For sure, yeah. Choices become very different in your mind when, like, you're responsible for your own actions, you know?
Right.
Like, I'm paying my own rent.
Yeah.
If I can get high, but I'm going to be homeless and out on the streets really quick. And that foundation too, I think, like I said, being a little bit old, I'm in my late 20s now. It's that too, just being older, paying bills, all that stuff definitely helps and makes you just kind of make different decisions in life. But it's a constant struggle, man. I mean, just being back in school too in UVU, it's been humbling.
Sure.
You know, because I've always prided myself on being somewhat intelligent, and then you go back to school 10 years later, it's like, holy crap, I gotta actually apply myself and try these new things. You know, it's very humbling, but I love that type of stuff, man. Just new challenges. That's the only way you grow is struggle.
You know, you tout a lot now that you live your life with gratitude. I know this is going to be a tough question, but what are you most grateful for?
Most grateful for?
I know is there something that stands out?
Yeah. I mean, there's lots of things that stand out, but I don't think I mentioned it. A couple months in, a really good friend of mine that I met here, Braxton Schofield, I went to his funeral from an overdose.
Yeah.
And I had actually never been to an overdose funeral before, and I seen the look on his parents' face and everyone's face, my face, like it.
Yeah.
It was really, really tough, man, and I still miss that guy to this day. But I remember I was a couple months clean and just saying, I'm never gonna make my parents go through that. My mom, my grandma, I never ever want to make them go through that. And at that point, if I had overdosed and died, you know, it wouldn't have been a surprise to anybody. You know, I think everyone was just kind of.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been surprised.
I think everyone was waiting for that call. And so that's something that stands out as being truly grateful, is that I don't have to have my family worry about that call anymore and worry that they're going to have to bury their only son, their grandson. And so.
Wow. That's awesome, man. Well, I got to be honest with you, Sean. I'm really so grateful for you. You know, even having the chance to work with you and being a small part of your journey. And, you know, I'm grateful that you trusted me enough to reach out to me at certain times. And I'm just grateful, even to this point, that you're sitting here sharing your story with me today on this podcast. It just means a lot to me. I hope you know that. And I really do admire how you never gave up, dude. That's the thing I'm getting from you, is just how you just never gave up. And I really wouldn't have been surprised had you have died. I really honestly I wouldn't have been like, he did. I would have been like, I saw that coming. Yeah. You know, so it's so great to see you not only alive, but what you're doing, you're giving back, you're helping the recovery community. You get to use your experience to help other people who are like, man, how are you doing this? Yeah. So I just want you to know how grateful I am for you, Sean.
Grateful for you, man. I was super stoked that you asked me to do this, and there's a small list of people I would get up this early for, and you're on that. So
I'm glad I made the list. I know. It was funny. I like, you want to come earlier than 7? You're like, no, 7's plenty early.
No, this is great, man. I'm grateful to call you a friend.
Thank you. That means a lot, Sean. Well, there you go, listeners. Another amazing story from another amazing person, Sean McDonald. If someone wanted to reach out to you who's struggling and they just want to maybe ask you a question, is there a way they could do that? Is that, you feel comfortable? I mean, can they reach out to you on social media? Would that be a good way to do it?
Yeah, social media, Facebook, Instagram. My Instagram is Sean Michael MC, and then just Facebook, Sean McDonald, and definitely send a message, because I get like 1,000 friend requests a day that I don't know people. So definitely,
Yeah.
if you have any questions, you can send me a message and I'll try
Awesome.
to get back to you.
Very cool. Thanks for being willing to do that. Because, so yeah, there you go. If you're struggling or if you have a question for Sean, please reach out to him. I know he'd be happy to help in any way that he could. That's just how he lives his life now. I'm grateful for all you listeners and followers of this Belief Cast. It means a lot to me. I'm grateful to be clean myself, and I'm just grateful for this opportunity to hear these amazing stories. It makes me want to be better. So there you go, listeners. Have an amazing day. Until next time.
Thanks, Doug.